Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about a pretty old idea, abstinence, but we're going to look at it through a brand new lens, modern neuroscience. So let me just ask you this straight up. When you hear the word abstinence, do you think of some outdated rule? Or could it actually be seen as a kind of brain hack for making better relationship choices? It's a really provocative question, and the science behind it is just fascinating. So, yeah, let's dive in. All right, first step, we're going to try to move past the usual debate about morals or religion and really see what's happening inside our brains. I mean, for most of history, right? The whole conversation around abstinence has been about morality or tradition. It's usually presented as a list of do's and don'ts. But the source material we're looking at today asks a totally different question. What if we stop looking at this as a rule and start looking at it as a practice that has real, measurable effects on our brain chemistry? And that's the big shift in perspective we're exploring. So, to really get this argument, we first have to understand what is going on in the brain during sexual intimacy. And let me tell you, it is a pretty profound neurochemical event. The source we're drawing from explains that our brains are, quite literally, hardwired to form bonds. Intimacy isn't just something physical. It kicks off the release of this powerful cocktail of chemicals, and their whole job is to make us feel deeply connected to another person. Okay, first up in this cocktail are oxytocin and vasopressin. You've probably heard of oxytocin. People call it the cuddle hormone, and for a very good reason. These two are the main chemicals that create that feeling of closeness, of trust, of attachment. They're basically the super glue for our social bonds. Then you've got dopamine. This is the brain's big reward chemical. It gets released during anything we find pleasurable, and its job is to scream, "Whoa, that was great, let's do that again." So it powerfully reinforces not just the act itself, but the connection with the person you're with. And finally, we have endorphins. You can think of these as the body's own natural painkillers. They create this incredible feeling of calm, warmth, and security. This is the chemical that makes you feel totally safe and at ease with a partner. So imagine this potent cocktail of bonding, reward, and security chemicals just flooding your system. Well, the central argument from our source is that this experience can have a kind of intoxicating effect, one that might actually cloud your judgment. It helps explain why those whirlwind romances can feel so incredibly real and intense, but then just fall apart. The source material actually calls this a powerful emotional illusion of connection. Now, the feeling of intimacy is 100% real, but the argument is that it might not be based on actual deep compatibility. It's like a neurochemical high that can make you feel like you've met your soulmate before you've even had the time to figure out if you see the world the same way. Now, this slide really breaks it down perfectly. On the left, you've got the stuff that makes a relationship last: character, honesty, shared values. On the right, you've got the feelings created by that chemical cocktail. The whole point is that those intense feelings on the right can completely overshadow your ability to clearly see the super important stuff on the left. Okay, so if early intimacy can create this kind of intoxication, what's the alternative? Well, the source proposes this counter idea, a period of what it calls emotional sobriety. And I love how this is framed. Emotional sobriety isn't just about restriction. It's presented as a conscious strategy, a way to give yourself a period of clear-headed evaluation, free from those powerful and maybe even distorting bonding chemicals. It's about seeing a person for who they truly are. So, how would this work in the real world? The source suggests a pretty clear process. Step 1, you take the time to assess someone's character objectively. Step 2, you focus on building a foundation that's not physical. Friendship, shared values, trust. And only then, at step 3, are you really in a position to make a truly clear-sighted choice about commitment. And this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. The argument isn't that these chemicals are bad, not at all. As our source explains, it's really all about timing and context. So according to this perspective, when you wait until after a real commitment has been made, after you've already built that foundation of trust and respect and shared values, these same neurochemicals actually serve a different purpose. They become a powerful biological reinforcement for the bond you've already decided to build. So here's the big takeaway. The argument isn't against our own neurochemistry. It's about harnessing it. Instead of letting it create a potentially confusing sense of connection early on, you can use it to supercharge and solidify a commitment you've already made with a clear head. All right, so let's just quickly recap the key ideas we've covered from this source. Number one, sexual intimacy is a huge neurochemical event. Two, this intense bonding can mess with your judgment about long term compatibility if it happens too soon. Three, this reframes abstinence as a strategic tool for emotional sobriety. And finally, that brain bonding cocktail can be used to reinforce a commitment that's already been made.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. I mean, no matter what you choose to do, how does simply understanding the power of our own brain chemistry change the way we approach connection, attachment, and that big lifelong search for a partner? That's a really interesting question. Thanks for tuning in.